guys, welcome to Pushing Wealth. I'm your host, Gabby Angel, and we're here with my brother Stef and Serge, and we're going to be speaking to you about Airbnb, real estate, traveling the world and enjoying ourselves with community, and just seeing how we could help you also get into real estate as well. All right. So, the first thing I want to touch on is something that I myself have been victim to, and it's just this kind of myth of college is unnecessary, right? We hear this all the time, and here I have two young brothers who've been able to do it in college, in corporate America, and out of it as well in their own vision of entrepreneurship, right? So I want to know you guys' experience, how has college benefited you, and do you truly think that it's been beneficial for you? Simply.
Yeah. Want to start? I can start. It's cool. So thank you for having us, by the way, bro. We're excited to be here. So just getting into college, just a quick background about me. I went to a military boarding school, so I really didn't know much about college going into college. But I'm from the Bronx, and I was always told college doesn't make sense. You're gonna get into all this debt, and it's not gonna be worth it. And people who don't even end up using their degrees. But growing up in the X, we all know how it is, right? So it's like a lot of my friends when they was dealing with prison and people dying when I was growing up, I looked at it like this. I got homies doing life. I got to sacrifice my life for 4 years being around great-minded people and being able to get a 4-year degree and actually, college is what you make of it at the end of the day. So when people try to tell you, oh, you're going to get into debt and you're going to end up, losing time and it's just a waste of time, you can get rich without it, I'm like, listen, at the end of the day, college for me was a place where I was able to learn about who I really wanted to be. When I was in college, that's when most of my homies was going to prison. So I looked at it like this. I could have stayed back and listened to people that were telling me that, or I could take the leap of faith, go to college and figure it out from there. I'd rather figure it out in college in Western Pennsylvania than figure it out in the Bronx, New York. So for me, it's just, don't listen to that. College was a great experience for me. I met Serge in college. And, this is family to me. I met some of my best friends. People who are going to be in my wedding one day. So, life moves fast. So college gives you time to just take your time and, be able to just, sit back, figure yourself out, and just focus on school and what you want to do in life.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, thank you for having us, Gabe. Really appreciate it. The same for me. So always knew I wanted to go to college. And then when I got to college, Penn State was a place where I met some of my closest friends. I joined a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Those became my closest friends at school. And it was an opportunity for me to get away from home, figure out who I was as a person, and figure out what I wanted to do in life. So college forces you to grow up really quick. Where I'm from, I grew up in Jersey, and then I spent some time in PA. A lot of people end up staying where they're from and not figuring out who they are. One of the best ways to figure out who you are as a person is leaving home. It forces you to grow up. You got to take care of rent. You got to figure out how you getting around. A lot of things like that you don't have to do when you're at home. But once you get to college, you're on your own. You got to make it work. You got no other option. So going to college is that for me. I had to figure out who I was as a person. I had to figure out what I wanted to do in life. And then again, I met some of my closest friends. So really appreciated the college experience. Again, it might not be for everyone. It was for me. And what I learned from it is figuring out who I was as a person and what I wanted to do in life.
Definitely, bro.
Very well said,
And
bro.
that's very well said. Also wanted to touch on it because on the frat life, right? Because, coming from our communities, we may see it as, not how you guys see it, right? Because you guys went through all this sacrifices and, you guys do a lot for the community as well in these fraternities. And I just want you guys to speak on that, what it was for you, just so, maybe somebody who's going to college now and, maybe thinking about it, or the frat life, what does it mean to you and just something for the young person who's thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I wanted to join Alpha, my mom is a Delta. She was in a sorority. She went to Howard. A very bright woman. I never really understood what that was about growing up. I was more into different things, and college when I was a kid wasn't really in my family's concern about me when I was that age. So me going into school and seeing my profiles, they're called your profiles, were your older fraternity brothers, just seeing how how much they put back in the community, then just learning about the great men that came before us. We got people like Martin Luther King and, Thurgood Marshall, people who really changed this country. So people like us can, be able to do things like this, that fought for our rights. It was just incredible to see. It was more of a privilege for me to be able to join that brotherhood. My friends make fun of it all the time. Like, oh, it's just like a college gang. It's like a college gang. But I mean,
I said that a lot too when I was in college.
Yeah, but me growing up in the X, right? We know how it is. Like every block is a part of some type of gang, right? But I'm looking at it like, yo, I grew up on that kind of stuff. So me being able to join Alpha and seeing, like, to me in my mind is like, this is how it's really supposed to look. One way leads you to jail and the prisons. The other way leads you into 7-car garages and lifetime brotherhoods. So I mean, it was a clear decision for me.
And would you like to add on to that?
Yeah, well said. So when I got to college, different than Stef, I didn't know anything about Greek life. Nobody in my family had ever been Greek. So when I got to college, I was kind of figuring out who I was as a person. And I was starting to read a lot. And I read a book, and it was like, you're the average person. And one of the biggest takeaways from the book was you're the average person of the 7 people that you surround yourself around, right? So I started trying to figure it out while I was in college. Who were the people who were going to be the 7 that I surrounded myself around? And I started, like Steph said, started seeing the bros on campus, and they were doing a lot for the community. They were well respected. And so I started wanting to kind of surround myself with people like that because, again, started thinking about who I wanted to be as a person, what type of values was I going to stand for, and those sort of things. So that's when I started expressing my interest, and then started doing my research. And like Steph said, some of the founders, not the founders, but some of the most famous members, what they have done for the community speaks volumes. Martin Luther King, Thurgood Marshall. So once you do your research and start getting into it, and you find out what it's about, it was a no-brainer for me. So that's what got me into it.
Definitely. And as an outsider, I just wanted to add on to that because as an outsider, I see how it benefits so much, right? Just something as small as that. I go to a job interview and maybe it's my frat brother behind the person who's asking me the questions. Not saying that's going to give you a leg up in life, you know what I'm saying? Because, if you're qualified, you're qualified. If you're not, you're not. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it is something to look forward to. Growing up from where we came from, sometimes our friends or our brothers are, just in and out of jail system. And whether it's their fault or not, it is what it is. We're not here to discuss that. But it's like, it's good to see that, okay, you have a brotherhood full of people that they go into a certain path. It's a future that you want to live, right? A lot of us in our communities, we just try to survive, and it's like, when do you start living? And I see that in a frat life, and a lot of them, not all of them, but in a lot of them, it's about living, and it's about being brothers. And I just wanted to touch on that because, a lot of people don't have that experience. A lot of people can't ask, like, yo, what's this, what's that? And sometimes the things that we see as representations of frat life isn't the best image, and that's why maybe it could push someone away, or maybe have people ridicule you because you want to, just because of that perspective, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted 2 young brothers to tell me that. So now we're gonna go forward into what you guys do best, right? Airbnb and real estate. But actually, before that, I wanted to speak about corporate life, right? Some people, when they speak about it, it's like miserable and stuff like that. But unfortunately, it's not often that we see young people of color actually go into corporate. And I don't know a lot of people that can say like, hey, how's having an actual job, a 9-to-5 in corporate America, right? So I want to ask you guys, like, what's your experience? Do you think it benefits you? And just tell the youth, if you think it's okay to have a 9-to-5, I think it's very well to have good to have a 9-to-5. But
yeah. I mean, the way I look at it is this: 9-to-5 is a good opportunity for you to get some skills that you want to gain, and then ultimately, if you don't want to work for your 9-to-5 employer, use those skills to build whatever you want to build. I think for the masses, 9-to-5 makes sense. It's a consistent stream of income. There's not a lot of risk, and it provides for your family, right? For those who the 9-to-5 doesn't work for, get the skills you need, use the skills that you're building to build whatever you need to build in the long term. So that's how I think about 9-to-5s. But 9-to-5s, I've learned a lot. I work at Accenture. They're a consulting firm. I learned a lot from them. People skills, leadership, presentations, and those are skills that I'm going to use wherever and whatever I do in life. So I think for a lot of people, 9-to-5 is definitely the right answer. And for some people, it isn't. And if it isn't, it's a good place for you to get the skills that you need to do what you want to do.
Yeah, well said, bro. I completely agree. I mean, I work for a company called WeWork. So, we're into like hospitality, real estate. We own 1% of New York real estate, right? I mean, me growing into, I don't know if you saw the movie about WeWork. So, like,
Yeah.
me going into WeWork out of college, forget not knowing about how
Were you
college
there
is going to
with the
be.
CEO?
Oh, yeah. I used to see him. We were upstairs getting my cereal. He'd come out with no shoes and salmon shorts. Yeah, it was it was an experience I'll be able to tell my kids about. It's how big that experience was for me. When I got out of college, I was like, damn, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? I didn't have a job for the first 6, 7 months of me getting out of college. I'm like, damn. And then WeWork came, and it was like my savior. I was working my ass off just to get. I don't know if I can say that, but I was working my ass off just to get I was temp to hire just to get a full-time position. I was going from 9 to 9 Monday through Friday every single day just to get full-time. And when I got it, it was one of the greatest feelings in the world. I use the skills that I learned at WeWork. Even to this day, I still learn something new every single day to, my Airbnbs, to other businesses I'm trying to build. And even like me, us getting close and him having this strong passion for WeWork, I try to learn as much as I can at work from WeWork and the real estate side so that, when we decide to really start making these huge deals, I can take some of that knowledge I've been able to learn and help us be successful. So, things have a funny way of coming full force and making a lot of sense, bro.
Definitely. And I want to ask you because again, we don't have a lot of people in our community who can say they work for because it's basically a tech company, right? To me, you guys are basically yes, space, but is technology as well.
Yeah.
And I heard they're pretty fun sometimes as well.
Yeah.
Even though there's a lot of work. Can you give us some experience of how fun it is sometimes? Well, obviously you got to put in that work, but like working in the WeWork.
Yo, I mean, one time, this is when Adam was there.
I know you was the other day posting Ace of Spades at work.
Yeah. So that was our IPO day. We just went public. Huge day. Got a whole bunch of stock for being there for so long. So it was we worked hard for that day, bro. It was a really good experience and thing to go through and see. So I mean, one time we went down to LA for this huge conference. And he probably he knows this story, but we were in LA. The whole company from around, we're a global company, so everyone around the world came, and the company rented out great adventures in LA. Like no lines, nobody else in there, bar carts everywhere, liquor, food, everything is paid for. That was something I've never seen before. Imagine people from all over the world working the same company you are. Free liquor, free food. It was a great vibe. Meeting people from all over the world. That was when I was like, yo, this is what money really looks like. That I don't even want to know what that bill for that weekend looked like, bro.
It was something else, right?
Yeah, crazy.
Now moving on into, what you guys are best at, right? You guys are good at a lot of shit, man. Cause you guys are gonna see. But real estate game and the Airbnb game. A lot of people, it's like a hot topic on social media, and everybody speaks about Airbnb and how they want to do it. And you guys are doing it right in real life. Can you guys kind of tell me your story in the Airbnb space, and just give us some game?
Yeah. So Airbnb is, well, going back a little bit. Growing up, my father he had some real estate, and I'd always help him with the real estate that he owned growing up. Whether it be like fixing something that was broken in the house, whether it be taking care of the weeds and stuff like that. So that's how I first got introduced to real estate. So it was always something that I was interested in. And then kind of growing up, wanted to kind of get my own real estate. So got into real estate a little bit after I graduated. I purchased a 4-unit, same area where I grew up, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So purchased a 4-unit there. And then I started learning a little bit more about short-term rentals and Airbnb. So started doing my research, and I found out that it was like almost 2 to 3 times more profitable than traditional real estate. So I was like, hey, let's see what this is about. So we were just about getting ready to go on tour. We were going to Houston, LA, Vegas, and we're like, let's figure out what the right area is for us to get started within the Airbnb space. So you were there. We went on a winners only trip first.
Yeah.
Then we went to Vegas.
Which we're gonna speak about in a few. What's winners only?
For sure.
Yeah.
So we started checking out these cities. We went to the cities that we knew best and that we knew were going to be successful for short-term travel. So we went to those places, started seeing apartments, and then we ended up meeting our boy Brian down. Who's our fraternity brother. Back to the connections that you were talking about, those connections. So we met him in the Houston area. He told us a little bit about what was going on in that area. We ended up choosing Houston as a place to start our short-term rental business, and things have only been going up since.
So you guys would say that you did put in a lot of research and planning into doing this.
Yeah.
It wasn't like overnight, like, yo, tomorrow we're gonna go get our Airbnb, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And going back onto what you were just saying, you had told us that you bought a 4-unit property, right? How would you able to do that? Like, I know a lot of people gonna watch this like, wait, how? Would you be able to divulge into that?
Yeah, for sure. So for me, it started with saving a little bit within corporate America. So I started in corporate America after I graduated. Started putting away a little bit of money. One thing my dad always told me, he was like, yo, don't spend everything that you get in corporate America. It's easy to get caught up in the lifestyle, like using the money to flex and stuff like that.
Of course.
But started saving because
If you guys had spend cards too.
Yeah.
The corporate cards.
They don't know. They don't know about those. I only had one of those one time in my life, and I miss it every day.
They took it from us, man.
So yeah, I started putting a little bit away at every check that I was getting, and then ultimately saved up enough to put 20% down on a property. But now looking back, if I knew what I knew now, no way I'd put the 20% down. So there's a lot
of FHA, right?
Yeah.
Or the
FHA.
Or the one you love. Say the one you love. There's another one.
The NACA. We're going to put them onto the NACA, man. So NACA is like a 0% down payment program. I would have done that. I would have done the FHA. Bank of America has a couple programs that pays for your down payment. There's a lot more ways to get started without putting a lot of money down. So looking back, I'm glad I got started because the market is like, my property is almost 3 times in value, like from 4 years ago. But looking back now, there's so many programs and innovative ways for people to get in. Recommended.
We just didn't know.
Yeah.
We just didn't know. Real quick, touching on that as well. If you were to tell just an average kid in the hood, just like, hey, I got maybe $5,000 saved up and I want to keep saving, how would you recommend me? How can I go buy something? Like, can you tell them like, this would be my step per step right now if I was, let's say, 20 years old again, and you just had $5,000?
Yeah, that's a good question. So a lot of people don't know when it comes to real estate is probably the easiest way to become a millionaire, right? So Andrew Carnegie once said 90% of millionaires have gotten that way through real estate, right? So definitely recommend they get started with real estate, even if you do have something like $5,000. So the first way is probably the program you spoke about, NACA, right? And house hacking is probably the easiest way for people to get into real estate. I tell people, if you want to become a millionaire and you want to do just one thing to become a millionaire, house hack, live in a 4-unit property and let that property appreciate. Let your tenants pay for your mortgage and then let them pay you a little bit passively too on top of your mortgage. And just stay in that property. If you do nothing else and you stay in that property for 30 years, the value of that property would be $1 million. And then the money that you got passively over that 30 years, easily over $1 million.
And a lot of them don't know that you don't even have to sell it to use that equity, right? Yeah. The equity you built, you can then pull it out, right, to invest in something else. And that's what the beauty, everybody speaks about generational wealth, but that's what it is right there. Like, everybody talks about this as well in the real estate space is that you buy 4, then you get a 3, then you get a 2 and a 1. And we're talking about doors, guys. And, it's something nice. It's beautiful to see you guys doing this. And, and now let's touch on to the arbitrage, right? This is going to be the one that's most appealing to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Because it may sound simpler or easier, and it may involve less money.
Yeah.
But I also want you guys to tell them the pros and cons of it, so they could be very aware, that it's not that easy to afford a rent somewhere else and to rent your house as well. So I'm going to give the space to you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Want to jump in?
Yeah, man. I mean, we've had some pretty funny cons. So
It'd be like that, right? It's
yeah,
always like that.
I mean, when we were going on that world tour, we were looking at different spaces. We felt like we knew enough information to move forward. And at first, we did. And talking to Brian, our mentor at this point, we made certain mistakes like spending too much money on furniture, right? And we even had a situation where like we were driving with like a couch on top of a car.
Don't tell me it flew off.
I drove into like a pole and then like the top of the pole like came off. So like we had a lot of like cons, but we learned lessons that we can be able to like get on this platform and tell people like, yo, like we didn't have to do that. All we should have did was buy used furniture. Like we should have did things like that just to make our lives a lot easier. The pros were
real quick, because I don't think everybody knows what arbitrage is, and it's guys. It simply put is like, the same way you would rent an apartment for yourself.
Yep.
You could rent an apartment. They're gonna tell you exactly how to do it to not get into any trouble.
Yep.
But you would rent an apartment. Using your credit. Obviously, that's very important. And putting a down payment, they'll obviously tell you ways to get around it as well. But using renting an apartment and then you go and rent it on Airbnb, right? And that's the arbitrage point of it. Basically, you don't own it; you're just leasing it. But again, if you're leasing something for yourself, why not lease something to make money off of it?
Yeah, so I mean, I could talk more about like how we did it, and I know he could talk more about like the credit stuff.
Yeah.
So like, kind of how we did it was like you said, like me and Serge are great negotiators. So like we were meeting homeowners, talking to them on the phone, going up to them in person, apartments that we have in Houston, and saying like, hey, listen, like, if let's just say a rent is $1,300. Our business model is saying, okay, you know what, like, you're $1,300 for this whatever house or anything like that. Well, we have a system where we can give you 14. But what we're gonna do is going to be short-term rentals, and we'd even make them more comfortable by saying, "Hey, listen, like we're gonna have our cleaner there a certain time of week. We'll make sure we take care of the properties. We have good insurance that covers everything in the house. We'll make sure the grass is cut if it's a house. So that's just part of just making owners feel more comfortable." And, us being able to, meet them in person and kind of just talk about our business model and already having success in other areas before. It makes people, I always recommend if you're just getting started in Airbnb, whether it's in your city or whether it's outside of city, if you have a homeowner, try to, it's best to just meet with them in person because it gets them more comfortable with you and they know exactly who they're dealing with. So yeah, that's how we got started. We were able to, like you said, first month's down payment for rent, security deposit. Depending on the size of the property, you're gonna pay certain amounts, different amounts. It'll vary for the furniture. So like a 1-bedroom apartment, varies from maybe 5,000-6,000, 3 bedrooms. Everything varies from the size of your property. But we like Houston because of the medical center. So we'll get people that like come in and they'll want to stay for a month at a time because of
talking about those traveling nurses.
Yeah, those traveling nurses, or some people might have surgeries. And so what I also would recommend before I pass it over to Serge is like try to go to places where, there's a lot of tourism. And also don't be afraid to go to like those places that are smaller but maybe have like a conventional center and big hospitals, because I even heard some free game is military bases. Those military guys, they gotta have families that want to go see them, and they might necessarily be able to stay.
And guess what? So I'm gonna give you some more game. Dumb prison camps too.
Oh,
the prison camps that are a little less strict. Don't like the military camps for prison stuff like that, because it's easier to visit your family member if you're right across from there.
Yeah,
that's game as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'll let Serge jump into the credit stuff and some things like that though.
Yeah. So I think we just spoke about, there's a couple ways to get into the Airbnb game. There's 3 that I could think of that I know of. One is arbitrage, right? So renting to re-rent, you rent from a landlord, you furnish the place, and then you put it on Airbnb, and then anything you make after that is profit. So that's the first way. The second, which a lot of people don't know, and probably the easiest way to get in, is co-hosting. So the business model is a little bit different. You're working with the landlord, and you're trying to convince the landlord to turn his property from a long-term rental into a short-term rental. And it makes sense for them because if you're a landlord and you're making $1,500 a month, and I come up to you, I'm like, hey, I have a new business model where you could go from making $1,500 a month to $3,000 or $4,500 a month. What would you say?
I'm in.
Exactly.
Tell me what's the catch. That's it.
So there's really no catch, right? So this is what you're doing, right? You're converting the place from a short-term rental into a long-term rental, and what you get for doing that for them and managing it for them is 20% is what we typically do. 20% of their gross revenue. So the beauty of that is they pay for the furniture. You really don't have to come out of pocket for anything because you're managing the business for them. They pay for the furniture. There's no down payment. There's no first month deposit. None of that. So that's probably the easiest way to get started if you have $0 to invest. Convincing the landlord to turn their place into a short-term rental, co-hosting it for them. That's the second.
And you're being a management of just the Airbnb side, right? You have nothing to do with the property. Just You just controlling Airbnb for them, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Yep. The third way to get in is ownership, right? I'm a heavy proponent of ownership. Equity is how you win in life. I'm a big proponent of ownership because I'm big on generational wealth. I want to leave the next generation better off than my generation. And ownership is how you do that. You build equity. You pass the property down to your kids. They have a better start off than you do, and the generations just keep getting better and better and better. So that's the third way. You buy your property, and then you furnish it, and then you use it as a short-term rental. And I'm seeing people pay off their mortgages in 4 to 5 years with short-term rentals.
Yeah, man.
So really changing the game when it comes to short-term rentals and ownership. So that's the third way to get in. But those are the 3 business models right there: arbitrage, co-hosting,
yeah,
and ownership. Yeah.
Perfect. So I'm gonna have a few questions for you. Just so, because I know I'm probably gonna ask questions that the people are thinking at home. Is so not everyone is as educated. When you said revenue, just make it clear. Obviously, that it's you're not taking from profit, right? You're taking from revenue.
Yep.
Which means
top line. So whatever they make, you're taking 20% of that.
It doesn't matter profit or not. It's just you're taking 20%.
Whatever it is, 20%.
Right. And that's before cost, before everything. Just because some people don't understand, some business terms.
For sure.
Now, I actually asked you this before because my brother here had a Zoom, and he was giving out some free game, and insurance is something very important when you move into a renter, right? They always like renters insurance, and we have just a bunch of companies. I don't say names, or it's cheap as well, but in the Airbnb space is a different game when it comes to insurance, right?
Yes.
Can you just put them on to that?
Yeah. So we like to use short-term rentals insurance. There's specific insurance for short-term rentals. Proper is the one we use.
Yep.
So they cover short-term rentals. So you guys have probably all seen that video on what was it on? It was on social media. But some renters came. They had a party in the Airbnb. They broke the TVs.
Oh God.
Everything was done.
Yeah.
Maybe $20,000 to $30,000 worth of damage.
Yeah, they went crazy on us, man.
They went very crazy. So that gave a bad light to the short-term rental industry. But if those people had proper insurance, they would have been completely covered. So that's the insurance we use. But there's kind of 3 layers of protection with short-term rentals. So the first layer of protection is if something like that happens, something breaks, you ask the guest to cover it, right? You send them pictures like, hey, you broke this during your stay. Can you cover it? So that's the first line of protection. If they decline or they say they didn't break it, then Airbnb has $1 million policy as well. So they say they will cover damages up to $1 million. So there's that line of insurance as well. And then after that, we have our own insurance proper.
If all goes to hell.
If all goes to hell, we raise it to proper and we put a claim in and they'll cover it. So we kind of have 3 lines of protection there.
Perfect. So let's say, just a regular person, and I decided to let me start an arbitrage, right? 'Cause just to me, it sounds like the cheapest option, right?
Yeah.
And I started up, and now I want to get into the Airbnb game. What would be your step-by-step, kind of game plan? Like just 10 steps or 5, whatever you like. Like do this so you get your first listing out there.
How to get started in the Airbnb game.
Basically.
Yeah. First location, I would say. We like to use AirDNA to just figure out.
It's a great tool.
Yeah, great tool. So we go on AirDNA. We go on AirDNA and say, hey, is this a good? It'll pretty much tell you, is this a good place to do Airbnb? So go look at the spot. Find some places that you like in those areas. See how much it's gonna cost, and you should base it off 80%. So if you have to go by rent, so you should base it off 80% occupancy. So if you have 30 days, so 20-ish days, and you go by how much about you're gonna charge for every day. So Monday through Thursday will be one price pretty much, essentially. Usually the weekends we tend to charge a little more because it's the weekends. It's a more popular time. So after that, when you run your numbers, you base those numbers on 80%, like I said, and you'll see how much you're making over the top of that rent. So if you're doing arbitrage and say your rent is $1,500, but when you all in, if the market that you're looking at per day is a certain amount of money, and it's maybe $102 just more than your rent, it's probably not worth it for you to do. But say it's $1,500 for your rent, and you're looking at, I don't know, $3,500 at 80%. You might be onto something. We try to make sure that every unit makes at least $1,000 a month. But we also, when we have our 3-bedroom houses, we tend to make a little bit more because we put more into it. We spend more money on it. It's more higher rent, so we get to charge more. and our 3-bedroom houses, a lot goes more into that as well. So I mean, those are pretty much the steps we like to take just to start everything off. And it's more simple. Like that part is more simple than it is, but we also have designers, that go in because we're not designers ourselves. Some people are better at that stuff than we are. So then there's also that option to look into too. But yeah, those are pretty much the quickest steps to get into Airbnb, to be honest, bro.
So I remember in one of your Zooms that I've been a participant in, you were speaking about, when you first put that first listing on Airbnb, you have like little tricks to kind of get it out there.
Yeah. So when you first put your listing up, there's a lot of tricks that people don't know that you can really get your listing to the top of Airbnb. And that's how you win. If you're at the top of the listings, a lot of people are going to book you before anybody else.
Of course. Think about millennials. Millennials are on Airbnb. They're not going to want to go 5 pages in to find a good...
Those reviews are your lifeline, bro, on Airbnb. If you get bad reviews on Airbnb, no one's going to book your Airbnb, bro.
Facts. So like he said, focus on reviews, focus on quality, focus on your guests first. That's probably one of the best ways to get up there. So what we like to do is like the first 3, 4, 5 guests, they get a discount off to stay. So we start off, we get the ball rolling, we get some really good reviews, and we start bumping our listing up, right?
It's a long-term vision.
Take
it out for a couple of weeks, but I'm going to be up in the long term.
In the long term, exactly. So first couple, we like to focus on reviews. Another thing is Airbnb's algorithm likes to show listings that they believe are profitable, listings that they believe guests are going to like the most up front. So there's a couple ways you can kind of hack that. One is getting the views up on your listing, right? So what we like to do is whenever we get a new listing up, we'll send it to all our friends to take a look at. We'll post it in Facebook groups to take a look at. Mm-hmm. So we'll start getting a lot of views in our listing. So the algorithm will say, "Hey, that's a really popular listing. Let me start moving that to the front of the viewings, right?" So that's one thing that we like to do. Favoriting listings is another good one. So a lot of people don't realize same concept, right? If you got 10 favorites, the algorithm is going to think, "Hey, this is a really popular listing. Let's show it to our guests," because they want the guests to have the best experience. They want the guests to stay at the best listings. So they'll start moving that to the front as well. Same thing like, Instagram's algorithm and everything like that. Mm-hmm. You got a lot more likes, they'll start pushing you to the front, like the reels and everything like that, right? So those are some tips and tricks. Getting a lot of views. Whenever you put a listing out, get a lot of views on it. Send it to a lot of people. Have people favorite it. Have people add it to their wish list. Those sort of things are going to start getting you a lot of views. And then in addition, photos, right? Spend the money up front on the photos.
Yep.
We definitely tried to go the route of taking it ourselves. Never doing that again.
Didn't work. We got some quality pics. Started heating up.
Absolutely.
That's something that people don't need to understand. You got to invest, man. You got to invest. You got to pay that cost, man.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? Jordan's in our room right here. My videographer, photographer. Sometimes it hurts to pay him that bread, but he do what he got to do.
He takes you to a whole nother level. Yeah. So those photos
elevates.
Those photos, you spend the $100, whatever it is, it'll bring your quality of a listing to like a basic listing to a top tier listing. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Get the professional photos. Spend the time in the beginning. Fill out every section of your listing. Make the description real good to the point. Make the listing title something attractive. You know what I mean? Everybody likes to stay at a place like a luxurious place, an elegant place, a penthouse, a presidential suite.
Describe it on the next level.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Even on your Instagram. I mean, when you take, like, if you take a picture on your iPhone, right, and say you post it on Instagram, you might get 400 or 500 likes. But say you get a professional photo done, like more normal people do for their birthdays or something like that. Yeah, people are gonna like it because it's your birthday, but you're also getting a very quality photo. So people like quality like more. So it's the same thing in business,
Of course. And before we conclude on the Airbnb game, but tell me, what are your plans on scaling, guys? Like, what's your future looking like in this space, and what are you guys gonna be doing to scale? Just so some people who want to get far with this as well can know.
Yeah. Right now we're looking at a lot of different cities. We have about 2 or 3 in discussion right now, and one thing that I want to talk to your viewers about is, if you want to go to a city that's not your city, try to have somebody there that you trust, to watch over the places. we were having ours in Houston, and that was one of our biggest problems. Was that like we had people in Houston, but our friends in Houston were too busy to kind of look over our properties the way we needed them to, and that was a lesson that we had to learn. So we're looking into cities right now that we have people that can look over for us there,
and that goes back to that network you guys have.
Yeah,
that you can tap in. That's something very important, right? We need to tell people, build that network, because you never know where you need to tap into, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, the plan is to just go to those cities, see if it makes sense, like kind of what we were talking about, playing the numbers game, and me doing more research about real estate itself, buying houses. It's the number. Once you find a formula that you like, correct me if I'm wrong, you use that formula over and over again. You keep looking at those types of deals, and when you find those deals, you know what a good deal looks like. So that's just what we're doing.
If it ain't broken, you gotta fix it, man.
Yeah.
If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
So that's our plan of scale. We've done well. We have some money saved up. So now it's just time for us to put our pedal to the metal and kind of just look for those deals and travel to these different cities where we have our people in and just get a whole bunch of units, man. And I remember one thing that we talked about the first time we met, just to remind you, was we talked about the Dominican Republic.
Definitely.
So just some free game for your viewers. We're from New York City, you from Jersey, and we know people that have, families. Most of us, I not really me, but most people have families with houses, vacation houses. Jamaica, Dominican Republic. We come from a very diverse city, and to your viewers, you guys are thinking about, you guys have a house in Dominican Republic, Jamaica, wherever. You have a family house that nobody's just living in. You just go visit it like 3-4 times a year. Airbnb it out. While you're not there, it's just sitting there. You guys can Airbnb it out. Like you get a cleaner. That's kind of the free sauce that we teach is automating the process, right? We make sure that for our cleaners, they see when there's a booking, they see when they're checking out, so they know when to go to the booking and when they need to have it cleaned by. So we don't even have to make that call to the cleaner. And we also, we don't live in Houston, so how are we giving these people the keys? Right, just some more free game for your viewers. We have something called a smart lock. We can open and close the door. We give our guests that want to sign in, we automatically send them the information to get the smart lock. They can open the door, close the door from the comfort of their phone. We don't have to physically be there to give any keys, leave it under the mat, none of that stuff. So even going back to what we were talking about before, man, you got a house in DR, man. I'm sure some of your viewers probably have a couple of vacation houses, that are just in DR, wherever they're from around the world, that are just sitting there. Take what we're getting, do your research, and B&B it out and make some money, man. There's so much room for us to eat, and we like to travel ourselves. So we're looking into talking about your scale question. We're looking out of the country too. We love to travel, so if we get these B&Bs and properties that we own outside of the country that we love going to, when we get on that flight, that's a tax write-off.
Yep, and it's a very low entry in these countries, right? We were actually speaking about this, and Dominican Republic, you could probably get a luxury 2-bedroom apartment with access to amenities, like pools and gym for $120,000. You can't do that anywhere here, right? Mm-hmm. And something very good just to speak on it, because I know have a lot of viewers that want to invest in DR and just don't know how to get into it. The biggest way into real estate in DR is buying property that is in construction, and the free game is actually doing your research on who's constructing the building, right? Because in third world countries there's just a lot of corruption, there's a lot of scams, but if it's a reputable constructor and it has someone behind it, and a financier that's behind it that's reputable, which you should be able to Google, that's a no-brainer. Like in DR, the way it works usually, if especially something in construction, which is usually it's gonna take a year to 2 years to make, it's usually up to 60% cheaper than when they're gonna put in retail. And the way it works is you literally put $1,000 down for the first 30 days, and after that you establish a payment plan. You can either do a payment plan with the builder, and it's done in 20% by this date, then 40% by this date, and then 100% by this date, right? And then you can also do a deal with a bank. And a lot of people don't understand that there's ways to do things, right? Especially as American citizens, we granted actually better deals in other countries than their own citizens, right? Wow. In DR, a tourist could get a better deal on real estate than a citizen.
Why?
And
Why
that's
is that?
Unfortunate. it just the way they look at it is like, you know, you're more established. Your money's American, right? It's never gonna go bad, right? And that's just the reality of it, right? You know, I know people who are dual citizenship. I'm dual citizenship myself. I know people who have dual citizenship, which means that they are American and Dominican citizenship. They hold those both, and they've gone in with the Dominican citizenship and haven't gotten approved for a deal. And then they went in with the American citizenship and got approved for a deal. So you know, that's just, you know, bank wise. You know, technically we're tourists, so try to use those benefits, right? You know, don't, like, you're probably in the way, like, use those benefits all the way, like, why not, right? And again, if you're paying, let's say if a house is 120,000 and in 2 years you have payment plan, why not, right? And when they, you know, a lot of people have experienced this, and especially in the pandemic when people had a lot of money to throw. I know someone personally close to me who invested into 3 different apartment buildings that were kind of being constructed. All they put down was 15 grand on each one.
Wow.
And by the time that it was 80% done, they had offered to buy them out at a $30,000 profit.
Wow.
So it's like,
no
what
brainer.
that person did was they sold the 2 of them to the builder, and that just paid off the first one.
Yeah.
Crazy.
That's it, and rinse and repeat. That's another opportunity that people don't know about this construction game, is that if you get into the right property that's going to be extremely popular, you might get bought out before even it's finished. Because it's gonna be someone else who's gonna come in who's gonna want it, and they're gonna pay the retail. And what do you think the builder's gonna do? Is gonna be like, okay, you're supposed to estimately pay 100, let's say 100,000, and someone wants to give me 140. I'm gonna give you 130. I'm gonna keep that 10 extra on top. Like, you know, it's little things like that happen, but I'm not gonna complain. It's 30,000 in my pocket, and who knows? Maybe I didn't finish paying for this, so that 30,000 goes straight to my pocket, plus whatever I already have put in. So it's like, I didn't even finish paying for this, and I already made 30 grand, right? Yeah. That's not everybody's case, you know, but it's free game.
Yeah.
And Airbnb over there is going crazy, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's actually disrupting the hotel business because it's so easy. If you're in a great location, it's easy. It's just easy, it's cheap. I just went to DR, and I was in luxurious. Every place I went to was luxurious, and I didn't pay more than $500 a place. Right, and you know, for someone as an Airbnb, and you're on the hosting side, it might sound like, you know what I'm saying, like, that's a little bit of money, you know. But the consumer, it sounds cool. But at the end of the day, the way you look at it is, you know, since everything's already cheap over there, that's fine. Like, your money making $500 is cool, but you're making that every 2-3 days because it's hot. It's a hot market. It's always moving, always moving. That's the good thing about countries like that, is that obviously there's, like every other place, right? There's seasons that's the hottest, right? But again, it's a warm country all year round, so it's always gonna be, if you're in the right place.
Man. We have to get something
If
set
you're in the
up
right
there.
place,
Yeah, man, let's do it.
always listen.
I told you last time.
Yeah.
We waiting on you.
And then
You holding out. You holding out.
We love DR.
And I'm about to give people the other game. And this is a more expensive game, but it's the smarter game.
Okay.
Besides the apartment construction, right? Is actually building a house, right? Right now, the big wave in DR is the ecological, which basically, like, in nature and stuff like that. It depends, right? So we have tourists. We have 2 types of tourists in our country. We have the tourist who just likes the beach and just wants to be near the beach. And if they're not near the beach, you're not getting them, right? And those are tourists that usually stick, like 80% of them stick to resorts because it just makes sense, right? And plus, you're not going to get anything near a beach unless you're in a small town, which the beach is not even popular, or you're spending big bucks, like real money. So then you have tourists who like to do adventure stuff. Like, they like to do the buggies or the ATVs. They like to get into the rivers, like stuff like that. And a lot of millennials, that's what they're getting into now, right? So there's a lot of ecological places where that's the whole theme of it. Like, I just stayed in one of them where it's like, you're in the countryside. You're enjoying, when you wake up, you're hearing a rooster. You're hearing the peace. You're hearing the river that's literally like a mile away from you. And those are the activities that sell, right? So that's also space. And, you know, constructing something in DR that's not in a beach area, like, you could probably buy some land for 40 grand, actual land where you could build. Like, if you want to do it, you can do it in 2 ways, right? I know people who are doing 6 units apartments, and those can run you for, and this is actually cheap. You guys know this is cheap. A 6-unit apartment, besides buying the land, could run you 200 grand to build a 6-unit apartment with parking.
Wow.
200, 250. right? And if you wanted to do something like where I stayed in, it's actually the person who actually owns this, because I actually knew the person who owns it. They told me straight up the numbers, and this was pre-pandemic, so you guys know the numbers are a little bit different. But the land was about 50 grand for that land, and the property itself to build it with it has a pool, it has a bunch of amenities, but it's ecological, so it means that you still enjoy nature. Right. That ran them 220.
Wow.
The whole all in 220 plus the 50. So almost 300. Yeah. And again, like, can you do that here?
No. Depends where, but not in a good area.
You know, so that's the game. That's the ownership game. That's the building game over there. And once you get into that game and you learn who's who, then you could get onto those 6 units apartments like nothing, right? And be the financiers behind it, right? Yeah. Forget about a lot of artists over there are doing that, where they'll connect with a financier, and then they'll be like the promotion side of it, and the financier just the money side of it, and then they just build it up, and that's how they sell the units. Right. But it's like, think about it. If let's just say 6 units, right? Because that's all the real information I really know about. I don't know big units. 6 units. Let's say they cost you 300,000, like all in, or 350 all in, but each apartment you're selling for 100. You just doubled 100%. Like, let's say you're all in 300 and you sold up down 100 in 6 units. You just 100%.
Yeah, makes sense.
Right, and not trying to get anyone in trouble here, but if you do the way we do it a certain way, then you can leave your money in the country. If you don't want to bring it to New York, you don't have to bring it to New York. You can keep it. You can keep it. You can keep it in DR, man, and enjoy a very beautiful life over there. Yeah. So now that we're touching on traveling, man, and I know all three of us love traveling. That's one of my passions. If the way I'm living my life and I'm building my future, hopefully in the next 5 years, and I'm probably sure you guys will be my neighbors, I'm trying to do 6 months in the United States and 6 months out. That's my vision for my future.
Love it.
And that's just me. I love being in nature. I love being in the hot weather. That's just me. But you guys created something, and I'm gonna let you guys get into it. But a lot of people who are gonna be watching this know me as a promoter. And you guys did something that, is very difficult, right? It's easy to throw a party 20 minutes away from where we all from, right? It's easy to do that. That's a no-brainer. 300 people, that's normal, right? And it's easy, not that easy, but I'm just comparing it to what you guys are doing. My guys here are traveling the country and traveling out of the country and doing events, bringing a magnitude of people out of the country and just a vibe. They're creating a community. And I want you guys to speak on that. And that's what we said earlier, winners only, right? Yes, please speak on this vision that you guys got and tell me how this community has come about.
Yeah. Yeah, I can start it off. So, winners only, man. So, first of all, follow us on the gram, winners only weekend, man, for sure. Well, how this came about is, me and my partners, me, him, Philip, Ojo, Eb, Khalil, how it happened at first was, my boy Khalil, he introduced me to the rest of my partners, and they were kind of doing like a Poconos trip every year, just among friends. And the hustler in me is like, yo, when I got invited one time, I was like, yo, we got to make this a business.
And guess what that means? Guess what that means? You just told them, let's scale this shit.
I'm a hustler, bro. So I'm always trying to. If I see something, I think we could. Let's blow it up. So everybody was, we're not going. But then I ended up convincing everybody, let's do it. So we all got together. We put a business plan together. And we executed. The first time we actually did a trip, man, it actually didn't go well because we were doing a cruise and COVID hit. We ended up taking a loss because of COVID. And, we could have easily got discouraged. But, the reason why we wanted to do this, we all have our separate different reasons. We're all different people. But the main reason why we wanted to do this was we want to be able to bring people that look like us, who come from communities like us, and encourage them to travel the world. My homies, when they see me, they don't see just Stef from the block. They see Stef who's traveling the world, enjoying his life. Coming back to what you were saying, it's no more of just like fighting to live. Like, it's no more just like how we live now is like we don't have to worry about how we used to live when we was kids, bro. Like, growing up, we grew up with a struggle. Now it's like when we travel the world, we're seeing people, we're experiencing different cultures. So it's just a lot different. And now it's like we got a trip to Cabo coming up in July. We'll be in Turks in September. We'll be in Brazil in November. This is something I could have never been there. I could have never imagined being a part of. And next year we got more trips coming on the way. It's just a beautiful thing to be a part of. To bring, like, you just now we came with Jamaica. We had 100 people with us, and like I throw parties all the time, just like you. And there's nothing like enjoying life and enjoying people's culture outside of the country, bro. There's just nothing like it.
Definitely. And I want you to kind of go over your experience with it, and I want us to get into the logistics though. Like, I want to know how you guys doing it.
The logistics are brutal.
It's probably a headache.
Very brutal. But yeah, I mean, winners only. It's a family, and it's an experience at the same time. I mean, my favorite part about it is bringing people that look like us, that may not have had the opportunity to have the same experience as us, experience something new, right? My favorite part about it is when somebody travels with us and they're like, yo, I've never been outside the country. If it wasn't for you guys, I probably would have never been outside the country. Thank you for doing this for us. So that's one of my favorite moments when those type of things happen, because we get to have people experience new experiences that they may not have been exposed to. So I love that aspect of it. And then I love bringing business to some of these countries too. So we went to DR, right? We brought a lot of business to people that may not necessarily have had that business if we didn't bring the 100 people that we brought, right? So I love giving back to the communities that we travel to. So those
Next time you guys to DR, you gotta tap in.
What part are you in?
Listen, anywhere.
We had fun in DR.
Anywhere you want.
We had a lot of fun in DR. Don't tempt us.
Let me tell you something. Anywhere you want, I gotcha.
Don't promise me a good time. I'll be there.
Anyway, I promise you.
We have to go check it out.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I actually DM'd because we have a mutual person, a mutual friend, Sev. When I saw him post about you guys in DR, that was during the pandemic. I had DM'd like, yo, make sure they know that there's certain restrictions, because there's certain things going on during that time. I didn't want you guys to get caught up, because it was a little weird. Remember he told me like, nah, they're just doing Airbnb shit. They're gonna be good, bro. Don't worry about
COVID.
Yeah, I hit him up like, yo, you make sure they know, like, it's not the COVID thing.
Yeah.
But it's like, yo, they're not even letting people go outside at a certain time.
We almost did get caught up.
Yeah.
We got stopped by the cops.
I hit him up. I'm like, yo, bro, let them know. Like, after a certain time, there's a dub. Like, please, I don't want them to get caught. I mean, the good thing about DR, though, is if you only speak English to them, they're just going to let you go. Because, like, what are we going to do? You're American. What are we going to do? Now you speak a little Spanish, it's over.
Get them out of here.
And none of us, when we got stopped by the cops, none of us knew any Spanish. So
it
he's like outside the car with his translator. But like, yeah, bro, like Serge was saying, man, like, it like winners only. It like every trip, right? Like we go through so much. We work really, really hard to make sure that like our clients, who are also our friends, right? Like that they have the best experience traveling out of the world that they possibly can. We work our asses off, but then at the end of the trip, it's like we're tired. We're having all this fun. We just worked our asses off for like a week straight. Like all that planning that went into before. Every time people come up to us or after and saying like, "Yo, I'm so happy I went. When's the next one?" That's what it's all for, bro. It's not even. It's less about the money and all that other stuff it brings us. It's more about
the fun, bro.
It's about the experience, bro. Because I'm telling you now, like we have really come up with something that is encouraging people that look like us to get their passport.
Yeah. And travel, like, winners only for us is like, it's more of a passion project. You know what I mean? Like, winners only is not going to retire us.
Listen, if people think it ain't no money, especially in what y'all doing. Y'all do is a different level, but there's money, there's event space stuff, but sometimes it's more headaches than anything. It's like, you can make an X amount of money, but then the time and the effort you put into it, it's like, what was that money for? You know what I'm saying? I wanted to go into logistics because, yo, you guys do something out of scale, basically. Like, it's different putting 100 people in a room 20 minutes away than 100 people out of the country. Can you guys tell me when you guys do this, or is space like that you guys providing a package where it's like flight, stay, everything, all the activities together, or is it like, you cover something and like how you guys are doing it?
Yeah, so I mean, we try to cover as much as we can, right? We want people to be able to come on our trips and not have to spend $1 when they're with us. So we try to cover as much as we can in the country. The only thing they really have to cover is their flight outside of kind of the entire package. So, but once they get to the country, we cover the lodging, we cover the events,
the transportation
to and from wherever we're staying, the food, the drinks, all of that is included. The only thing they really got to cover is the flight. But once they get there, they're taken care of, and people know when they
And
travel.
you guys
with
haven't
us.
thought about doing the flights as well?
That's
Hey,
another headache.
maybe
You were
next-
talking about logistics.
maybe next-
That's a logistics nightmare. You were
Yeah,
talking
I
about
would assume 'cause
logistics.
You have to have passport numbers.
That's a
Guys, I
logistics
flew
nightmare.
out. I flew out. I think it was like 20 people, and that was such a nightmare.
Yeah,
and especially
yeah,
I couldn't fly them
yeah.
all on one airline.
People
I had
miss
to fly
their
them
people.
on 3 different
People
airlines.
miss their flights.
They gotta
I
call
have to-
you. No.
And then
Yeah, bro, it's
the-
crazy.
Listen, I love Delta. I love Delta. Like this is. I don't care.
Oh, you're a
if they don't-
Delta guy.
I don't care if they don't pay.
Okay.
I love Delta. I am a Sky Elite medallion. Whatever. I'm gang.
Sheesh.
I'm just gang.
He's gay.
Listen, I'm gang. First
come on,
class for
American,
free.
man.
Shout out to
Come on,
AA, man.
American.
That's for domestic.
Hey, it was me and Serge.
Listen,
Check.
let me tell you something. But Delta has a little tendency of hitting you with that. Oh, you have to have the card in person. It's like, then how am I people gonna fly? So, from Miami, for one of my trips, I had to literally resort to flying people out like through different airlines. That I was like, yo, damn, like I'm 3, 4. I even have points in airlines I've never used before in my life.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. I'll get the points. Cool, that's all good. But again, going back to those packages, like going back to those packages, like, how do you guys pretty much, like, how has it been, that experience of calling places that maybe that don't know your language?
It's a
Or
lot
have
of,
you found people, like when DR, like, did you find somebody who spoke English? Like,
It varies, bro. We like to go places. So, like, obviously the goal is to travel the world, and we don't know everyone in every country. So what we try to do is we try to go to places that we have people connections there, but we also like, when we go out there, we like a guy that's on the ground. We like a go-to contact guy. Like a lot of people, like a lot of my homies when they're out from out in New York, they call me, yo, I'm in the city, Stef. What should I be doing, right? People like us are gonna let them know what they'll be doing. Same thing with them. Like, so if say we're going to Cabo in a couple months, right? We want guys out there that could be able to, that know the area, know where to stay, know where to party. Because we have a certain way to structure our trips that we like to do it. We like certain boat parties. We want our people to be very comfortable. We want everybody to travel together in buses.
and it's safety too.
Yeah.
That's part of being safe when you're all together.
That's what I'm saying. So that's another thing. When we were in Colombia, we had armed security. Not because we thought our lives were in danger, but when we're traveling in some of these countries, we understand that we're not from there. And, we also understand that we're Americans, and we want to make sure that our clients, when they travel with us, they know that we have their best interests, so that we want to make sure that they are not afraid of, oh, yeah, this country, we heard about this. They know we're going to make sure that their safety is.
Let's be honest. Some of these countries,
We'd rather pay the fine and make sure everybody's comfortable.
some of these countries is like $100 for 5 guards to walk around with. I'm not saying that was you guys, but like
a little more than 100, but
No.
yeah.
It depends. It also depends the experience of who you hiring. But like in DR for maybe $200, you could have an armed guard with you for a whole day. Okay. Why not? Like if that was what you wanted, like if you're not really from there, why not? Like now I'm talking about top elite guard, like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, again, I love what you guys are doing all around. This has been a beautiful experience. Just talking to you guys about, everything. Like, you guys are in a lot. Let's be honest. You guys in corporate America. You're doing the Airbnb and real estate. You're doing the traveling space, the event space. And, I respect you guys, admire you guys. Before we leave off, what would you tell the younger self, the younger Stef, younger Serge?
So for me, probably 2 things. One, figure out your why. So figure out like what motivates you every day to get up.
Good one.
Figure out what motivates you to do what you do. So for me, it's my family. We were talking about Kev earlier. I gave him a call the other day. I was like, yo, bro, I really want to retire my mom in 3 years. And he was like, yo, why don't you make it 1 year? How do you make that happen? So for me, it's my family.
Seth is always trying to push it.
He's always trying to push it.
Seth is one of a kind. It's my boy.
So figure out that why. Figure out what's motivating you to open businesses, to work your 9 to 5. And if you figure out what that is, the sky's the limit. You're gonna go 110%. You're gonna go way farther than somebody that's just doing it just to do it. So that'd be my first piece of advice. My second is change your mindset in life. I think growing up, I always thought like life was happening to me, and then I started kind of changing my mindset a little bit. And I actually read this in Tim Ferriss's book, Tools of the Titans. He said if you start to kind of change your mindset and realize that everything in life is happening for you. You just got to figure out why it's happening for you. Like, life gets a lot easier. Life gets a lot easier. So every time something happens, have a positive mindset. Try to figure out why it's happening. Maybe it's opening. Maybe this door closed because there was another door that was supposed to be open for me, type of thing. So that's probably my second piece of advice. And those are the two that I could think of right now. You got anything?
Yeah, man, but both very well points. I mean, that the why thing, I have to agree with, and just going into life. 10 years. I'm 27, so 10 years ago, I was in military school. I was in upstate New York. I had no idea what my life was about to be like. Like, I was a kid that just was upstate for pretty much 3.5 years. I was a kid that I pretty much lost my high school childhood completely. So for me, I was a little nervous about going to college, because I didn't know how to be around like normal people for real. So I was scared to just even live life, to be honest with you. So, I would tell 10 years ago me that it's just kind of what you were saying. It's gonna work out for the best. Things are happening to you for a reason. I mean, even to this day, I still fold my clothes a certain way. The way people even point out me how I look at them in the eyes and how disciplined I am with certain things. Like, I mean, I realized that like when I was growing up, it was like a kind of like why me kind of thing, but like now, those experiences made me who I am. So I would just tell my younger me like, yo, it's gonna be okay. And honestly, I would also tell him like, yo, like, you don't know what you want to do now. Sometimes I do a lot of different things, and I know who I want to be, and sometimes I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I know that like you put yourself around good people that want to see you win, that don't put you in positions and situations that are going to bring you down and only bring you up. There's only way you're going to go is up. I was in a lot of situations growing up that didn't have my best interests. I had no business being involved in, but now, like, I feel like my circle and even my brothers who I grew up with, we're all in such better places in life. That's just I wouldn't even, if you would have asked me this even longer than 10 years ago, if me and my homies and I would have been around people like y'all having this conversation like this, that this would have happened, it wouldn't even been a thought in my mind. So just having that mindset that it's just all gonna work out and everything heals with time, and just keep working hard and just keep attacking life and just keep going at it, keep working at it, things are gonna be okay.
Perfect, guys.
Advice.
Man.
I appreciate you guys, and it's been a pleasure. All right,
My brother. Thank you for having us, Brody.
No problem. And cut.